Welcome back. So in today's lesson, we're going to do something which, like the other topics we've done in the past, it's going to be on solving equations. And this is relatively easy topic as we'll be focusing mostly on linear equations. So don't worry about anything with power 2 and higher. An equation contains an algebraic expression and an equal sign. For example, 2x plus 5 is an expression, while 2x plus 5 is equal to 8 is an equation that can be solved for x. So there's two terms that you have to know. There's an expression and then there's an equation, okay? Now, an equation has an equal sign and it has things on the left and right of the equation. An expression does not have an equal sign, so this is an expression. Basically, if you have an expression that's equal to an expression, that's called an equation. Right, so how to solve an equation? Keep the equation balanced by doing the same operation on both sides. Aim to have the variable, for example x, on one side of the equation and a number on the other side. For example, x is equal to 4. So in terms of actually solving equations, it does take a bit of practice. Simply reading these two tips is not enough, right? So let's just take a look. So that just mainly focus on trying to isolate the variable you're trying to solve. So for example, in this question, try to isolate the e. What that means is try to get everything else on the other side of the equation. So let's take a look. So how do you solve this? So then what we can do is we can just divide both sides by 2 first, right? Because we want to make e by itself. So you have e plus 10 is equal to 12 divided by 2, which is 6. If I divide left hand side by 2, I get e plus 10. If I divide right hand side by 2, I get 6. So then you just take away 10 from both sides, you get e equals to minus 4, right? So this one's pretty easy. For this one, you can do something similar. So you want to make y by itself. So you got to move the other things out of the way. So what I can do is I can take away 5 from both sides of the equation. So I get y on 3 is equal to 12. Take away 5 from here, I get y on 3. Take away 5 from here, I get 12. Next step, multiply both sides by 3. So you get 36. So these are the easy equations. Next example. So for example, in this one, you want to make z by itself. So what you can do first is try and get rid of the fraction here. How do you get rid of the fraction? You got to times both sides by the denominator. So you got to times the left hand side by 5, times the right hand side by 5. If I times the left hand side by 5, I get 3z, take away 2. Right. If I multiply a fraction by the denominator, basically the denominator vanishes. Multiply the right hand side by 5, I get 35. Next step, add 2 to both sides. So 3z is equal to 37. Final step, divide both sides by 3. Now 37 doesn't go into 3, so then we can just leave your answer as 37 on 3. You don't need to turn this into a mixed fraction. Alright, question 4 is a little bit different. So for these kind of questions, you need to make sure you move all the variables to one side. So you have to collect the 2b. So you have to collect these two terms together, okay? So what I can do is I can just add 2b to both sides. So then now the equation will only have 1b rather than b on both sides. So you add 2b to both sides, so I get 1 plus 7b is equal to 8. Because if I add 2b to the right hand side, I get 0. If I add 2b to the left hand side, I get 7b. Next step, just take away both sides by 1. And then divide both sides by 7, right? So you should be pretty familiar with these questions. I think these questions are taught to you in year 8, and you're now in year 10, so you'll be unfortunate if you cannot do these questions. All right, so a question like this, you have y on both sides, so you got to expand. So then expand the bracket. 3y take away 6 equals to 10. Now when it comes to expanding this, you got to be careful because there's a minus sign. Minus 2 times 3y gives you minus 6y. Minus 2 times minus 1 gives you 2. So plus 2. Simplify both sides. 3y take away 6 equals to, now to simplify this, you just do 10 plus 2. So 12 take away 6y. Next step, you can add 6y to both sides. Now, I recommend adding 6y to both sides rather than take away 3y from both sides. And the reason is because I'll lead to a positive number if I add 6y to both sides, right? So 9y minus 6 equals to 12. Next step, 9y is equal to 18. And then y is equal to 2. So that's pretty easy. Alright, for a question like this, now because you have a fraction, okay, so what I recommend is multiply everything by 3 to get rid of the fraction. So then what I'm left with is a plus 2 is equal to 3a plus times 3 gives you 9a, minus 4 times 3 gives you minus 12. And then this just becomes an easier question. So here I would actually take away a from both sides, just so that the coefficient of a becomes positive. Stays positive. Add 12 to both sides. So then divide 8 to both sides. So then 14 on 8 is equal to a. So then a is equal to, now in your final answer, I would always write the variable on the left hand side. Now you can simplify this. This is just 7 on 4, right? If I divide top and bottom by 2. Okay. Alright, so then let's just go through some examples from the homework. So, okay, these questions are a little bit different to the ones that I went through. So I'm just going to go through some of these as well. So when you have something that looks like this, what you can do is just convert both fractions into 1. Okay, so if you convert both fractions into 1, you have to find a common denominator, in this case 6. So you can write this as 3x over 6, because you times top and bottom by 3, plus 2x over 6, you times top and bottom by 2, equals to 20. So then this is just 5x on 6 equals to 20, right? Then you just have to solve this. So then 5x is equal to 120, x is equal to, this should be 24, right? So these questions are a little bit different to the ones that I went through, but it's kind of the same concept. Let's take a look at see if there's any more questions that I haven't gone through. So, okay, so most of these questions should be fine as I've gone through these ones. Okay, so hopefully this is enough for you to be able to do the question. So I'll just go through one more example. Okay, so let's see question R. So to do question R, find the common denominator. So what's the common denominator of 2 and 3? 6. 6. A common denominator. So then this is 3m. Take away, if this was 6, this would be 2m equals to 7. Simplify this, you have m on 6 is equal to 7. So m is just what? 42. Alright, so that's all for today's lesson. Thank you for listening.